here we have this one situation where enormous entities want to use the internet for their purpose to save money for doing what they're doing now. They use FedEx. They use the delivery services. They use the mail. They deliver in other ways, but they want to deliver vast amounts of information over the internet. And again, the internet is not something that you just dump something on. It's not a big truck. It's a series of tubes. And if you don't understand, those tubes can be filled, and if they're filled, when you put your message in, it gets in line, it's going to be delayed by anyone that puts into that tube enormous amounts of material.
She's killed hundreds of thousands of people with her stupidity.
I'm bored. Let's do something else.
I got this book. My dad gave it to me.
Sounds as though the rapper is attempting to put an
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, guys and gals. Thank you for joining us this Thursday evening. We're off to a bit of a late start today, but we've been very, very busy. I have somewhat of a frog in my throat right at the moment, right as we're going live. Didn't see that one coming, but then sort of did, right? Have a really good show for you tonight. We've worked really hard. Kevin and I pretty much nonstop. I got up this morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
I got my first text from you at 4:30 a.m. Yes.
Yeah, which you ignored, screwed up, but we can't go into that.
That's another story.
And classified. And I think I'm going on like 18 to 20 hours right now straight. The day before, and what are we doing? We're putting together content for your site.
We're putting together content for the listeners, my friend.
For the listeners,
yes.
But for your site, we made great progress today. For the
I really
Kevin
appreciate
Holly
that.
show.
Yeah, thank you.
WordPress, his looks so much better than mine, and I made both of them.
It's like you got a gift. It's like you got a gift for Christmas back in like 2013 or something, and you're looking at the same gift this year, and you're like, this gift's better.
Well, yeah, but no, I mean, it really is. I set yours up with WordPress.
I wouldn't say it's better, but you did a great job.
Mine's
Thanks.
like this little freaking off-the-shelf little template thing, which I had like 3 minutes to do it with.
I like it. No, I think it looks great. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, it's pfc40book.com. Go ahead and check out Pat's site.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. See, that's why Kevin's a professional in the house.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm the troublemaker, which is where we will begin this show. This is episode 11. What we're going to do is we're going to actually do 2 episodes tonight. One, we'll take this one to about, I believe we started at 8:30, probably about 8. Or 9:20, 9:15. We'll take a 15-minute break. We're going to start a separate one at 9:30 and run that for 45, 50 minutes. So it will be a great show tonight. We've put a lot of work in it. Even with all the work that I put into this, I still did not get a couple postings out that I wanted to get to my blog site. But what I did, and what we're going to start out with for the first of the 2, is a post that I just put online. It's going to have errors to it. I was so rushed with this. It's not even funny, and with all the other stuff. But it's titled McCain-Manafort Connections to 2016 Russian False Flag and 2010 Ukrainian Election Tampering. Where I'm going with this right now is that there is a connection between John McCain, Paul Manafort, with the 2010 Russian false flag. I'm sorry, with the 2010 Ukrainian elections. These were covered heavily, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here because we'll go into more detail over about the next 30, 40 minutes. But so in 2010, there were allegations by a watchdog group that these allegations basically pointed towards Paul Manafort as being using questionable techniques with the Russians in the Ukrainian election, and pushing more of a Russian, a Putin political view towards the Ukrainian elections, which was contrary to President Obama's position on that and the U.S.'s position. Even John McCain's position. Now, keep in mind, McCain and Manafort are colleagues, business associates, have been doing business together for quite some time. All right, so I was... the reason this particular issue caught my attention is that there's a third connection to McCain, Manafort. That third connection is General James Jones. He was Obama's national security advisor, and from January 2009 to, I believe, November 2010. And during that time, I was actually doing some work for. I was actually working for Dynology over in Baghdad. So let me start off reading just the first paragraph of the post that I just did. It says, okay, it's McCain Manafort connections to 2016 Russian false flag, 2010 Ukrainian election tampering. You must assume the words that come from a politician's mouth is simply BS until you proven otherwise. Ignore this rule at your own fate. Understanding this, do you just accept John McCain's very public anti-Russian persona? Right? Do you just accept that? It's not my intention to question the integrity of anyone in this post, but it's important to ask direct questions and expect direct answers. Before dismissing what I am saying, know that I spent the last decade in the deepest depths of the D.C. swamp. I held an above top secret clearance and provided support at the highest levels of the U.S. government, both in and out of uniform. I know how these people operate. There is nobody better to fight these people than someone that has been part of it. My career and life were destroyed, literally, folks, after being let go because of having too much integrity to lie. Read the facts below and decide for yourself. So that's where I opened this blog post with in the opening paragraph, to give you a bit of an idea of who I am and how this was related. Now, I went to work for Dynology Corporation October 2007. I went to Camp Liberty in Baghdad, just sort of going down through here, because I'm actually hoping that people will be able to use this broadcast to follow along with the the post that I did, to help them get a better understanding. This is complicated stuff. I'm constantly getting people telling me, "Hey, dumb this down. You know, make it simple for people to understand, because it can get way too complicated. It can get way too involved on the technical side, and we have that." I've been in the IT business about 20 years now. We have a tendency to think we're speaking to other people that speak our language, and it's sometimes a different language. So when I went to work for Dynology in October 2007, I supported the JPOTF. It's the Joint Operation, the Joint Psychological Operations Task Force in Iraq. And I went to develop technologies in social media psychological operations. Now we call that IIA, or Interactive Internet Activities. I'm only going to be using the full words. I throw out IIA because I use that sometimes. But that means Interactive Internet Activities, and it was a brand new technology that was just being pioneered, sort of trying to take psychological operations from dropping flyers from a plane to a more targeted social media interaction. So interactive internet activities. Now, I can't discuss what we did with the applications that we developed, but if you go to the post that I made online, I actually have a screenshot of the application that we developed called iSci. There's not going to be anything classified on this. This was all done on an unclassified network. Never been on a classified network. I'm not showing anything. I'm not even implying what we did with this. You could do so many different things with this application. You could use it for anything from changing the hearts and minds of two warring factions to moving milk off the shelf at your local grocery store a little bit quicker to be able to reduce spoilage. What can I do for you, Kevin?
Sorry about that. I was just wanted to let everybody know that the actual screenshot that you took and the information that you're talking about is linked in the description of tonight's show.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
so they can follow along while they're listening.
So you can click right on that, and it works, right? It doesn't go to one of your sites, right?
Of course not. No,
Okay,
it definitely works. And also, real quick,
Sure.
going back to who you are, you said, who I am. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we're real people, you know. Pat is a real person. In the opening sequence of our show just now,
I am not a troll.
Well,
Okay, maybe I am. But
Allegedly.
I'm a human troll.
but I had to sneak into the corner of our tiny little studio here and take my goodnight phone call to my children. And I don't know if people maybe heard that bleed over. I tried to turn my mic off and hide in the corner.
It was like a family operation.
Yeah,
here.
I apologize
We
for
don't
that,
care
but
about
at the same time, let people know that that's what happened, and we are indeed real people. This is something that really happened.
They better realize that I'm real, especially when they're reading this with all the probably the grammatical errors, because I've been up all night and just threw this one out so I would have
I'm sure it's
one
perfect.
out of the 3 that I planned on having out. But I'll get the other 2 out very quickly, like within the next day or so, because they all tie in so uniquely together. So back to the screenshot that I have. Notice the copyright, 2009 Dynology Corporation, all rights reserved. This basically was a snapshot of an application that we did develop for the Department of Defense. Now, like I said, you could use it for anything. You could use it for the PAO, the Public Affairs Office. Could use it to help for tracking college sports or anything, groups, activities through social media, because they do that all the time, and those are completely legitimate things, and those are wonderful, and they make your deployment overseas better. It could be used for something like that. It could be used for a lot of things. It could also be used to alter the outcome of a presidential election if somebody was so inclined to do that, or any type of election, whether it be local or whoever, right? So you look at the screenshot and you see, what do you have? It starts out with an I/O objective, all right? Well,
Wait, so you're saying that the software that you helped pioneer and develop back in 07, 08, when it was fresh and new technology, that could be used for all the things you mentioned, could potentially be used to alter the outcome of an election?
Sure.
Do tell.
Nuclear power, right? When they split the atom, right? It could be used for clean alternatives to cheap fuel, or it could be used to blow up Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right?
I get what you're throwing down.
Multiple uses for that.
I'm picking it up.
Some good, some bad. It just depends on. And so that's why after developing it, I know we only did good with it. Like I said, I can't say anything we ever did with it, but I know that anything that ever was done was good, because I wouldn't do anything bad, right? I ran. Let me throw something in here real quick.
Yeah.
I ran for supervisor of elections in 2004 with no political affiliation, on the premise of being able to help clean up the election process, help bring integrity back to our our democracy, right, and protect our democracy. I don't go from that to potentially having participated in the altering of the 2016 presidential election. I don't take that lightly, right? So, and I'm not going to take it lightly. So I want to explain. These were deep concerns of mine when I was putting this application together. I have a unique perspective over many, many, many people because I sort of understand how everything's tied together. So I was able to go in and look to sort of keep an eye out to make sure, because if someone does use this stuff, it's designed to be with so much anonymity and covert capabilities, you would never know. I could send you an email using like the I/O objective you see on there. That's to help work with an IO, information operations, right? It says for itself. At the very bottom of the page, I have a thing that's right on the Army's website that shows what the meaning of IIA is. IO, CNO, Computer Network Operations. I have their description of how it works. It's like a paragraph long at the bottom of the page, and this is all public knowledge, right? So you got IO. IO would be like used for hacking or more covert aspects, honeypots, if you wanted. So when you're looking and when you're looking at the 2016 election, let's not go back to 2010 and complicate things, which there were IO stuff there, according to all the different reports that we've seen, Watchdog, Huffington Post, all sorts of things. Let's go to the 2016 election, where you have this kid Seth Rich that was gunned down, potentially involved with, he worked for the DNC. Supposedly, it's looking very strongly like it was not a Russian hacking, that the Russians hacking the DNC and releasing that information. It's looking very much like Seth Rich. There's actually evidence, a lot of evidence, hard factual evidence that points towards Seth Rich. There's zero factual evidence, just speculation, and some reports from some of these organizations which, by their very nature, are designed to deceive.
Not to mention, some of the sources are unnamed sources. And a question just comes to mind: why doesn't Russia come out and say they had nothing to do with it?
Well,
or have they already?
Obviously, they have. I've seen many, many, many different things. They've actually been poetic about it, right? One, and I don't want to give this away, right? But one of the things, actually, that might be one of the things that we'll do tonight. Actually, no, I'm going to save this for later. But I gotta squeeze this in tonight. So there's going to be like that third one, with the Iranians, the Voice of America, and everything. Gotta tie that one in. So you have these capabilities, and you have now people. So Dynology, when we developed this in 2007, finished it in 2008. Our contract got rebid. We lost the rebid to the contract. And even though our government paid Dynology a buttload of money to develop this application, when we lost the rebid to the contract, Dynology kept the intellectual property rights to this product and went and made it commercially available. Right? So now what are you going to do? You're going to market it to what? Like police departments, so that they might be able to help catch child predators online because of its covert I/O capabilities. It has a PSYOP objective built into it. If you look at the second tab, supporting PSYOP arguments, you have all of these capabilities, including anonymity, so no one can tell who you are or where you actually sitting. No one can tell you're sitting in a police department, right? You have all of these covert capabilities built into this application, so they are now preparing slicks for this for public availability, for public sale. At the same time this is happening, one of the founders of Dynology, which is a family company, 15 to 30 people at any one given time in the whole corporation, one of the founders is General James Jones. January 2009, he took over as National Security Advisor. A few years before that, he was a NATO Supreme Allied Commander. He now owns the intellectual property rights that, while he's the National Security Advisor, or his son does, he's profiting from it. I don't claim to know their exact same business structure, or how he, on paper, may have removed himself from ownership of Dynology while he was Obama's National Security Advisor. But how can you say that? His office remained at Dynology's corporate headquarters. His son was president and ran I worked, his son, Jim Jones, I worked directly with Jim when I was in Baghdad, putting this application together. He was my point of contact
For
on this.
Dynology.
For Dynology, right? So Jim Jones is now the Obama's national security advisor, and while national security advisor, his son is now repackaging the software the taxpayers paid for, and the new company that took over is now, the government's now paying them to start from scratch to rebuild this whole application. Does that seem like the most efficient and effective use of taxpayer dollars?
Not at all. It seems like.
Tell me, help me.
Let me, off the top of my head. When you look at the Wikipedia page of General Jones, is there anything about Dynology on that Wikipedia page?
No.
Why not?
You have to dig forever. Apparently,
doesn't make
he's
any
not that
sense.
proud of Dynology or something.
I'm trying to
You
look
have
at it,
dig
you know,
dig
and
dig.
pulling it up, and I don't see anything about him on it.
One thing you'll see, and I don't have this because I don't have it finished. One thing you'll see is that he received as a salary something like $900,000 from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now hold on, right? $900,000 from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Wait until we go into hour 2,
Okay.
and you find out, and you see what they're doing with the Chamber of Commerce, with taking over, basically collecting all of your personal information.
Well,
now that the NSA
don't-
can no longer do it.
don't give away the whole second.
Oh no! I want to
but-
just give people a taste,
A tease, yeah.
a tease.
Think about it, though.
If Snowden's out there listening, he's got to be bumming.
He very well could be. We are worldwide. But, think about it, though. Who accepts $900,000 from the government and is also the president of a company that, is literally working with the government, contracts, making a ton of money, exclusive rights, it almost seems like.
Or at least his son is.
Yeah, but
right?
he has no... Well, he was the president of the company, right?
Yeah.
At one point.
Well, yeah, he was I'm not going to go. I'm not going to say exactly what it was. He was at the highest level. He
Something,
founded
yeah.
it.
I'm
Dynology. Him and his son founded it.
I'm not even paraphrasing. I'm just guessing,
But the actual paperwork, I said he was like, the chairman or something. I'm not. Look it up. I'm putting it all together.
That's my point.
Anyway.
Is you try to look it up. There's no
up.
information.
It's very tough. Very tough to find it. They did not. It's almost as if they felt that perhaps this could be perceived as a conflict of interest.
You think?
No, this isn't a conflict of interest. You're being awarded contracts. Your company's being awarded Defense Department contracts for social media psychological warfare while you're Obama's national security advisor. Now, let's tie all this in with the McCain Manafort. John McCain goes back with General Jones 30, 40 years. They were together back in Vietnam. Jim Jones, my boss, James's son, his first job, I remember Jim telling me, his first job was as an intern for John McCain. And he's my age. Jim's just about my age, right? So that goes back. This is a family. This is a friendship and a family that goes back decades, right? Mm-hmm. So you got McCain and Manafort accused of being flat out accused of messing with the Ukrainian elections using IO. And this is back, actually, this goes back all the way to 2006, 2007, 8, 9, 10, right? So badly that I don't know what year it was, but somebody from the Obama's administration, somebody from Obama's staff, 2 people, according to the article which we'll go into with the Huffington Post, 2 people from Obama's administration went to John McCain's office and said, could you please talk to Paul Manafort and tell him to stop pushing the pro-Russian, pro-Putin narrative to trying to influence the upcoming elections in the Ukraine. And John McCain's like, oh, I've known this guy for more than a decade. He's worked doing like my manager and such for multiple campaigns. But, and my office is shared next to his. We share the same office space.
Right.
But I have no idea what he was doing with the Ukraine. Well, McCain is so anti-Putin. It's not even funny. Is it possible such a persona could exist where a politician could be so against something with their public persona like McCain is, but yet somehow be acting in a completely opposite way covertly behind the scenes? Like he has a separate agenda, right? So, and there are, okay, so I say to myself, what do these guys have to gain by all of this? What would they have to gain by altering the outcome of the 2016 presidential election? Because if it's true, and the Russians didn't really do anything with the DNC emails, then that means the entire narrative that was pushed on a massive scale using the main street media, using social media, using everything. This narrative was pushed out on a massive, immediate, coordinated, organized scale. To push a Russian narrative. Now, the Russians, if this Seth Rich, in fact, was the person that gave WikiLeaks these emails, that squashes that entire theory with the Russians, right? So that means that it was all faked. To fake something like that would now require what? My software, all right? So it all seems to be working out quite well. These things all tie together in a way that really started to scare me, to bother me, because like I said, when I was developing this back in 07 and 08, I worried, sort of like Oppenheimer, that someday it might be abused or used incorrectly. So I looked for it, and especially after what happened with me, because you're talking about the people that are involved here, they basically ended my career the day after I filed an official report of fraud, waste, and abuse. When I was working a contract, been over there for 5 years in South Korea, filed official claim of fraud, waste, and abuse. They threw me under the bus. The day after I filed that claim, they put together and modified.
It was a memorandum, right?
It was a memorandum. Well, yeah, I filed an official report. Yeah. The day after I filed that official report, they modified the contract that I've been for 5 years, removed only my position from that contract. As soon as I flew out, within a couple days of me flying out, because my job's now been removed, they modified the contract back to its original requirements and replaced me. There is nobody in the world that can tell me that that there's a justifiable means for that. That was done as retaliation, in my opinion. That was done as retaliation for me filing a report the day earlier claiming fraud, waste, and abuse on a $10 billion project in South Korea that is just gone nuts. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. I have a book coming out, Victim of the Swamp. It details the most amazing story of fraud, waste, and abuse on a $10 billion project of moving the main U.S. base in downtown Seoul to Pyeongtaek. I worked on the J8, the transformation team, and I'm serious, this is a $10 billion project that basically had a coup where one person was in charge, took over the command, took over 3 of the 4 divisions as the head of them. And he was the one that ordered me out when I had filed the complaint. So you have me, a person like me, that's just not going to stand for this. And I had the ability to see something where nobody else really could see it because I've been so close. I was so much a part of this, and I was worried about it. I was looking for it, right? The Oppenheimer thing, right? So we now have McCain and Manafort's close connections. We've got multiple sources, Huffington Post, multiple. We have at least one that I've seen. I think two voting watchdog groups that are calling for an investigation. And now, what do we have? We have Dynology's close relationship, but how would Dynology have any relationship with Paul Manafort? That would be extremely unique, wouldn't it? That would be like, what would you like in cards or odds, right? What were the odds on Paul Manafort having a relationship with Dynology? Well, if you come to find out, that article that's linked into my report shows they took a Google Wayback screen capture because this site's been removed. They have a screen capture though of the Google Wayback from 2007, just before a couple months before I started for Dynology, of Dynology being listed as one of only 5 strategic partners on Paul Manafort's corporate site.
Yeah.
So now you have Paul Manafort, John McCain being questioned by everybody from Obama's administration staff to the FBI to everybody and their brother, except for the Russians. Which I love Russians. You know that. I have nothing. Putin's sort of a jerk, but right. So you got all of these people pointing towards this. And now enter Dynology, who just so happens to own the one software application that, if any of this was true that they've been saying about any of these people, Dynology happens to possess, thanks to taxpayers, the one application that would be absolutely required to make any of this, to make a psychological operations, an IIA-IO op, like what absolutely would have happened if it proves that Seth Rich had done this and the Russian narrative was all made up. Well, that was all made up by a lot of things in a very well organized way. And so now you've got these 3 people all coming together, all with very suspicious connections to elections and the ability to alter the outcome of even a presidential election with complete anonymity that's been tested, battlefield tested. If you came to me and said, I want you, Pat, you're a subject matter expert, and I understand you could alter the outcome of a presidential election for a certain amount of money. If you came to me and said that, I would say, absolutely, I can. With 100% guarantee, I don't care who you are. You could be Donald Trump. Wink, wink, nod, nod, say no more. I don't care who you are. I could make you the next president with the right amount of money. Not billions, fractions, which is surprising, right? And this, well before Trump even, before Trump even entered office, I have posts, I have my, in my book, all these things since I started writing even before that. I pointed out that you would probably be, I could put somebody like Donald Trump in office for about $30 million. Using IIA-IO, I would have production quality videos made.
It would be like a call center environment,
It would be a highly secretive, highly classified operation that would be ran by analysts with decades, analysts and guys with PSYOP backgrounds, decades, right? CIA guys, all sorts of stuff, but all contractors. You want plausible deniability on this, right? So you put all these together, and you go, wow, what a coincidence. How are all 3 of these people all such good friends, all containing key components that are needed if any of the stuff being claimed that they're guilty of is true to have happened? That's interesting. And by the way, have I laid that out in a way that sort of, have I lost you? Have I?
No, not at all. In fact, I want to go back to where you said you loved Russians. Mm-hmm.
You're going to make me...
Islamophobic, xenophobic, homophobic, sexist, racist.
Sorry,
No, hey,
I had to go there.
Yeah, I love it. You've been playing with those all day. So let me go down here a couple more. So in the post that I have, right? And this is interesting. Let me unscrew this. I tighten that up. No, I can't move it. I got to move it over here because I want to put my glasses on. Okay, here we go. So I put something here in. I put something because I told you my background: subject matter expert, social media, psychological warfare, psychological operations. So I'm trained in even theorizing such threats, right? And this is right out of the post, I want you to listen to this so carefully. I urge everyone to take what I say with the highest value, based on nearly a decade with the DOD. Dismiss anything, capital anything, all caps. I am telling you at your own personal fate and that of our democracy. All right? So you say, wow, this is too amazing. I can't believe it. Well, let me throw a few other things out here for you. These are all publicly available. Right here. Let me pull this screenshot up here. Oh, USMC Casework Management Tool. Welcome to the USMC Casework Management System. Warning, warning, warning. Unauthorized, this is all in the post. Unauthorized access to this U.S. government computer system and software is prohibited by Title 18 U.S. Code. You think that's a government computer?
No, not at all.
I'm thinking it's a government computer. Big warnings
no
all
way.
over it. Although it's accessible through Nipper unclassed, just regular internet. You got to have serious credentials to be able to. You got to have credentials to be able to access it, right? So you got this, and oh wow, hey, at the very bottom of that page, which I cut and zoomed in a screenshot
Again,
of it. Wait a minute.
PFC40book.com. Look for the actual link in the description for today's show and the title.
And then you look down and you say, oh, wow, copyright 2009, Dynology Corporation. Are you telling me that a retired 4-star Marine Corps general, so he probably has a few friends in the Marines, who was a former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, who is now, or at this time when this screenshot was taken, was Obama's national security advisor. Are you telling me that he was also doing government contracts for other things than even the one I told you? So they're actually doing like multiple contracts while he's military contracts. Now, okay, so let me tell you, right? If you're one of these other companies bidding on these contracts, they'll sometimes spend $50, $100, $250. They'll spend as high as $1 million putting together a bid on a contract, Kev. Right? You could, and maybe 3 people are bidding on it. So that like $250,000 that you put on that invested into that contract, you got a 1 in 3 chance of winning it, or just throwing that money away. Right?
How much do you potentially get if you actually win the contract?
Oh, it would depend, right?
Yeah.
If it's a $200 million contract, you're gonna put $1 million into putting together a beautiful proposal that's gonna give you the best chances of winning. But so are everybody else.
Well, based on the website that you made for the Kevin Hawley show tonight, I would think that you could probably do it for like $50.
$50.
Yeah,
maybe 100. Right? So you got this, right? Dynology Corporation, right at the bottom. Now, another thing that they did, and I'm not sure if it's during that time, but he's sure still profiting from it, was CKMS, the Congressional Knowledge Management System or software or service. Now, CKMS, how are we looking on time?
We're looking fantastic. We've got a little over 10 minutes.
Because this all ties in with what we're doing after the break. And after the break is freaking unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Okay, it's amazing. All right. The stuff that they're doing. Oh, that was timed perfectly. The stuff that we have here, where they're profiting from these contracts, they turn around. Let's say that they were. Let's hypothetical, right? Let's say that the claims being made by other people in articles and reports and other things about John McCain and Paul Manafort are true. Mm-hmm. All right, let's say they're true. Why would they? What's their benefit to this? Because McCain didn't want Trump to win the 2016 election.
He's one of the most outspoken people.
I'm pretty
right now.
sure he voted for Clinton.
You think?
Right? So McCain did not want Trump to win. So why I'm sitting here trying to make an argument that McCain and Manafort put together something that made the Russians look bad. Oh, wait a second. So maybe McCain's hatred of the Russians is greater than his hatred of Trump, and he was willing to throw the Russians under the bus using a Russians narrative that they put together using Dynology's social media psychological operations, psychological warfare applications, and other information operations tactics, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they put these together because it helps John McCain make the Russians look bad, because the Russians sure have had a hard time with Americans the last 3 months, and Trump didn't have like the easiest thing going on. So I actually can see ways that McCain would benefit from this, right?
Hmm. Now
Manafort, I don't know if he has any relation or what his relationship is with Donald Trump, but Manafort, he's got apparently relationships with Russia, so he's getting Trump in office and he's working his thing, so apparently they have a relationship there. What benefit would General Jones have with this, right? Because you might be a one-time thing where he helps out a friend or something, and you get some software and such. What benefit would they have with this? Well, what did the leaking of the leaking of the stuff that led to the Russian narrative, the leaking going all the way back to Edward Snowden? When Edward Snowden leaked the original information back in 2013, he did it to let people know because he thought it was bad what the government was doing, collecting all of people's data, their personal information, and using that. And they could use it for anything because there was very little, according to him, there was very little oversight on it. I disagree with that. From what I've seen in my experience, there's always been too much oversight on everything. But what I do agree with is that, or what I do understand from him, I don't agree with anything he did, actually. I'm totally against, and I think he should be tried for his actions. I think if he had an issue, he should have been willing to have sacrificed. I sacrificed my life. I sacrificed my career. I'm now, broke, freaking homeless. I'm doing a podcast. I'm doing everything I can within the law, maintaining the sacred trust that I swore to my government when I was granted that top secret clearance, right? But I'm also doing my best to use the same rules that they use to subvert the system to get this information to you, to the people, so that they can decide. Snowden didn't. He just dumped it, right? So in the process of doing that, it set off a few chain of events. One of the chain of events that set off was they said that they made modifications to the whistleblower. How are we looking on time?
Good.
Like, how many minutes we got?
We've got 6 minutes.
6 minutes, perfect. Yeah. Okay. So they said that they made modifications to the whistleblower.
Yes.
regulations to include subcontractors to that back in 2013. Well, I disagree because in 2015 I lost my job and I was denied whistleblower protection because I was a subcontractor in 2015. So apparently the thing that they were bloating about back in 2013 didn't exist. So that's one. The other thing that happened was they put together regulations that now require, or as of, I believe, like November 2016, required any contracting company that's doing a government contract with classified information involved where they have a clearance to have certain monitoring in place. And we'll go into that in the second hour. This monitoring is on the same level or beyond even what Snowden was talking about with the NSA. So Snowden thinks that the NSA, what they're doing is so terribly bad, and the government can't be trusted with this, and it's so terribly bad that he had to come out and warn everybody to fix it. And all he did was moved in industry, the intelligence data industry, from the government to private industry, to the private contracting world, where people like Jim Jones and Dynology develop applications that meet the new requirements, that the new laws that were put in place by after Snowden, because of Snowden. People like Dynology and Jim Jones are now responsible for monitoring and maintaining. And I've read some of this stuff to Kevin earlier, and drop your jaw when the don't go into any of it. Right, we're saving this, but it was freaking jaw dropping. It's so far beyond what Snowden could have imagined, and all Snowden did was he took it and he turned it around from. Took it and turned it around from the government, which at least had some oversight, to now, apparently, Obama's former national security advisor's company in charge of collecting, or at least going after contracts to collect this information.
And with that, I think we should take a break, end this particular episode, and come back strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. This is... People, y'all need to tune back in on this. We'll be back on in what is 9:17 right now, so maybe probably 9:30. We'll be back online 9:30.
All
okay?
right, cool.
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you, Patrick.
And we're gonna do a separate episode too, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do another episode actually.
So it'll come up as a separate thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
This way, people can kind of toggle between the two. You know.
And thank you for everybody who joined in for this one and listened. Put a lot of work into this. It's very important. Thank you very much for showing up. We hope to see you at the next one.